Man Up, a program dedicated to inspiring and helping men live lives of heroic virtue. And now, it's time to Man Up.
Welcome to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. We are broadcasting on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network. I am Joe Stopulos, and today I'm excited to have on a friend of mine, Blake Clark. Blake is a former Ut Fidem Dowling alumni who I knew from his time at Dowling, and then was at college at Iowa State playing quarterback there, and then was back here in Des Moines, and now he's an Ut Fidem mentor. So it's kind of cool to see someone go through this on both sides of it. But really, the point of in the conversation today that I'm going to have is on keeping the faith, which is what Ut Fidem is all about. But more broadly, how does one keep the faith in college? You know, I know what worked for me. I know what worked for other people in my life. I'm going to get Blake's perspective on what worked for him. So we're going to dive deep into the things that matter to parents. What do I need to do as a parent to help instill these things in my children? And then if you know high schoolers, kids who are going to be going off, what are the things that Blake thinks that are important in his life that we should have for kids going off into school, so that way that when they're going off to school, they're not just maintaining the faith or losing the faith, but they're actually growing in it. So let's start in prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our defense against the wickedness and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly hosts, by the power of God, thrust in hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. So, college in America, I've got a lot of thoughts on this. I think that there's obviously some good, there's obviously some bad that comes from it. But it really is that last kind of, you think about these Indian tribes, think of many tribes just throughout all of human history, especially for men, they had that kind of moment where they would send them off, right? So they had kind of a line of demarcation where they would separate from the mom, where they would separate from the tribe. They could prove themselves as men. And that basically doesn't exist in society today outside of maybe going to college, which is, again, kind of pathetic in some capacities. That is the thing. And so it is a big deal. It is the first time that most people are living completely separated from their parents, and how much that's changed, especially in today's world. So you think even college in the 1970s was not what it is today. It's not nearly as nice. Stuff today is really nice, and they live in comfort. They have the dorms are nice, food's nice, all this stuff's really nice. There's a lot of comforts there, and that just didn't exist. And so my point on all of that is, it's also this moment, this 4-year, at least probably 4-year path, where people can really fall away from the faith or grow in the faith. And a lot of times there's really not a lot in between. I know in my own personal life I saw this happen where kids were who were in the faith would 4 years later you show up and they're not going to church on Sundays, and how important that piece of it is as you look at the trajectory of your life. I tell the Dowling students or high schoolers all the time that this is really a 4-year period where you get to own the faith, where you get to be the person who gets to make the decisions on your faith. And also, by the way, it's kind of a neat thing. The priest at church during those 4 years has a window of 4 years of people with which he's got to communicate to on a homily on that basis. After that, you're in a normal parish, and they've got to communicate to basically everyone between the ages of 1 and 99. And so it's kind of a unique thing, the camaraderie, the community. And so I always tell people, I try to encourage young people to embrace this opportunity, because it can be an opportunity to grow in your faith, but it can also be a tremendous way to lose a faith. And I think that's what we've seen nationally. And so excited to have Blake on the other side of this break to discuss what were those things in his life that helped to keep him not just maintaining his faith, but growing in it throughout those college years. Stick around. We'll head to a short break, and we'll be right back.
Support for programming provided by Trappist Caskets, a work of the monks of New Melleray Abbey in Peosta, Iowa. Embracing an honest approach to death can more readily affirm the real meaning of life. Trappist caskets and urns are made in the prayerful environment of the monastery, using Iowa-grown wood from the Abbey's sustainable forest. Each casket and urn is blessed by a monk. Quietly laboring with their hands for 175 years, the monks offer workmanship at the pinnacle of woodworker's craft. Available for immediate delivery or as a part of a pre-planning program. Learn more at TrappistCaskets.com. Support for programming has been provided by Marr Security Services, a family-owned security company that provides full-service security solutions to homes and businesses throughout the Midwest. Learn more at PermarSecurity.com. Thank you, Marr Security Services, for supporting Iowa Catholic Radio.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by Bozen the Florist. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, weddings, whatever the message, say more with Bozen. Bozen.com, 515-244-ROSE. Bozen makes the moment mean more.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio is provided by the Sarah Vocations Ministry. Sarah is an apostolate dedicated to the support of new and existing vocations to the priesthood and consecrated life. Learn more at joinsarah.org, joinserra.org.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio comes from John Leonetti, EOS Implementer, the entrepreneurial operating system, helping businesses and organizations clarify, simplify, and achieve their vision. John.Leonetti at eosworldwide.com.
Support for programming comes from Vitae Family Care, welcoming new patients to their expanded clinic. Doctors Gregory McKernan and Ben Schwab provide personalized health care for the whole family, respecting the dignity of the whole person through every stage of life. Learn more at VitaeFamilyCare.com.
Forge presents Catholic speaker and author Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers Wednesday, June 26 in downtown Des Moines. The deacon will draw parallels between St. Joseph and the father's role in a family. Register at iowacatholicradio.com and tune in to Beacon of Truth weekdays on Iowa Catholic Radio.
My help comes from you.
Welcome back to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. Excited today to be joined by my friend Blake Clark. We're going to discuss Ut Fidem, keeping the faith. Blake is a friend of mine who has been around Des Moines for a while, and he's back, and we're going to talk about that. But the reason for this conversation today is Blake was in Ut Fidem. I remember him. That's how I first met him, actually, as a student in Ut Fidem, and now he's running a group. And I think it's a great idea to say, the idea of keeping the faith, Blake has done that. And so, Blake, welcome to the show. We're going to have a good conversation today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on, Joe. I'm looking forward to it.
So I was doing my math on this. We must have met, it had been 2018 or 19. When did you graduate high school?
We graduated in 2018.
So, gosh, it was before then. Man.
Yeah, it's 2017 or 2018.
Flies by because I was trying to work back. So Blake was instrumental in helping me get Matt Campbell for the Iowa Catholic Men's Conference, which was February of 2020. Had we waited another month, it would have gotten canceled because of COVID. It was like the last major event. And if you remember, it was the world shut down shortly after that event. So that was 2020 February. So we would have had to have done work together 19 to get the thing booked. But you were already at Iowa State at that point.
Yeah.
Right? So you would have been there from fall of 18.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fall of 18 would have been my first season. Right?
So
a true freshman year.
Piecing it together here. So, all right. So let's walk. So you and I met actually because of Ut Fidem. So we met because I had an Ut Fidem group, and Kelly Wolf, past guest on the Man Up show, had a group as well, and he was your mentor in the group. And so I think it's so cool that you were very involved back then, and now you're getting involved today. So the whole point of this conversation is to dial back. I think all the time about the amount of people leaving the church, young people going off to college, not staying in the faith, and then the rest is history. And I know my story about how I kept the faith through college, but obviously you're a different generation, and you just did it. And so let's even go back further. So, you grew up West Des Moines. You're a local product here of the St. Francis of Assisi, right? I went to grade school. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm fully aware that we're talking about your upbringing with your parents, and we're talking about Ut Fidem and all these things. I'm aware that whatever I'm one of six, and whatever my parents did for me that worked, that was great, that helped me to keep the faith, might not have worked for some of my siblings, right? So you're the oldest of three, right? Okay,
correct.
So it's you, and then your quasi famous sister Caitlin, and then your younger brother. What's his name?
Colin.
Yep.
He goes to school at Creighton. Yeah,
okay,
just finished his freshman year at Creighton.
And so the point of this is I fully understand anything that worked for you might not work for other people. Got that. But there were things that worked, obviously, because you're now mentoring other kids. So walk me through, what was your faith life like growing up as a kid? And then we'll jump into the Ut Fidem side.
Yeah, obviously I was what you would call a cradle Catholic. So as early as I can remember, both my parents are Catholic. So baptized in the faith early on. I always went to Catholic schools growing up, from elementary school through middle school, obviously into high school at Dowling. So I was always more naturally surrounded by the Catholic faith, just from those inherent structures you have at school, which is the biggest part of your routine. Yep. That is essentially built for you as a young person. So I think that is the first big thing to mention there that obviously plays a large role in building my faith and who I am, getting that exposure through religion class, praying before and at the end of classes, at the beginning and the end of days, all that stuff, just learning about the faith through that aspect. And also at home, like our faith is important to our family, family dinners every night, with my mom being a great cook. We always pray at the beginning of family dinners. You take the time to check in on everyone. If it's Advent or Lent, we would always have the little books, right? And you can do the Advent readings or the Lenten readings during that season. And of course, a non-negotiable is always weekend mass. Yeah. We were all involved.
I was going to say that had to look different for you guys.
Yeah, we were always involved in sports, so there's some person traveling here for this thing, or some person's maybe still at home with Colin, but everyone is always finding a way to go to mass whatever city we're in. Yeah. So that's a lot of kind of the legwork up front, which I'm grateful they did that, because I feel like a lot of people, when you're out of the routine, it's like, we're on the road, so maybe that's a good enough excuse. That was never the case. So credit to both my parents, whoever it was that was, with you, wherever you we're always active, and all right, your games are here and here and here. We can fit mass in
That's
here.
Awesome. That's
we're going to do that. And so, you go in between games, sweaty, and it's still in your, I don't know, baseball outfit or your basketball uniform and whatnot. But making sure that was always a priority as well on the weekend.
I love that. It's funny. So I played piano at the 4:30 Mass at St. Teresa's, which is the last chance Mass forever. And so I probably 10 years in a row I had that Mass. And it was funny because you'd see a lot of this, right? A lot of family, Makios would show up there a lot. And people who would be busy with other things, they knew this was their last shot. And so it was fun for me because sitting up there, I got to see who was coming in. There was always a different crowd of people. And a lot of this where people were obviously, running around, and this is where they were. It's funny because during the championship game or whatever it was in Cleveland this year, I was trying to make it out there. I'm like, I'm going to let Blake know. I'm sure they're going to Mass, and I love going to other cities and seeing cool churches.
Me
so
too.
You probably had a lot of experience seeing cool churches along the way.
It was fun. There was a great one in Cleveland. We went to, I want to say it was St. John's Basilica. That's right downtown there by where we were staying, and really cool church and a great Mass. It was fun to get in there and make sure that was still kind of a priority on that off day in between the.
And as I've already told him, we have a wonderful basilica here that he's welcome at any time. I got to tell my basilica friends they know that they know that they know. Okay, so foundation was laid, and I think that's a really important part of this. Like, so your parents normalize the faith, and I talk about this a lot with my kids. Is that the normalization of the faith makes it. When your friends are doing it, your family's doing it, this is the routine we're in. That's kind of like step one, right? So that this is part of your life. It's just the air we breathe, the water we drink is Catholic. And so the non-negotiable of Sunday Mass, especially to see the hurdles that were put in front of you guys for that, I think that's all really important. So then you get to high school, and I just had this conversation right before you came on about something totally different, but on related to Ut Fidem. Why would you join? Why would anyone join an Ut Fidem group? Like, where was your faith life like at the time to say, this is something I'm interested in?
Yeah, I think, to go back a little bit, obviously you talk about the normalization, and that's right. That's kind of like the table stakes.
Yeah.
And then at high school, I think there's the need to own it, and we can get into that with Ut Fidem. And what I try to work with my group on is that same thing. Like, okay, this has to become yours now. It can't be your parents led anymore. Soon these infrastructures like high school and your family routines that have always been there for you and have just kind of happened even without your active effort and owning of it are going to drop out like at, snap of a finger, and they're going to be gone. And you're going to have to really essentially reconstruct what your entire week and what the owning of your own faith life is going to look like. Yeah. So that's where we get to. So in 2017 or 18, all my friends were coming out of Kairos, I think. And so everyone's kind of reinvigorated. Like, we've kind of done our first own thing, for the first time, and you've stepped out of your comfort zone doing that. And then, we were approached by Addie and who runs and was initiating the Ut Fidem program at Dowling at the time about, this idea she had, and she asked if I could get a group together, and we were like, why not? It'd be kind of cool to, not just talk about sports or, whatever else we talked about as high school guys, and talk about some real, maybe more introspective questions, faith questions about who we are, what we're called to do, what this big change we had coming on the horizon in the next year, moving to college, was going to actually look like, and how we wanted that to, go successfully for us, and not and not do that transition with regrets.
Well, you had an awesome group of guys, because I remember hanging out with those guys, and you also had an incredible mentor with Kelly.
Yeah.
So you obviously a really great experience for you guys there, and you guys did that all throughout senior year, and then you shoot off to college. So college, you were you obviously played football, Iowa State.
Yeah.
So you had to balance the athletic piece of this, which is a sizable demand, plus the increasing, what's the word I would look for? I say unvirtuous. Like, there's a lot of bad stuff that takes place in a college athletics. This just can be from a virtue standpoint, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
for sure,
bad influences that can be there. And then so you got that plus the time schedule plus. How did you then in college, now that you're the one owning it, your parents aren't taking you there anymore, how did you prioritize the faith throughout college?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of getting off to a good start. I knew, getting there early. So we go in early June. So, I mean, that's only a month after or not even really. I mean, a couple weeks after you do graduation in high school. And so early on that summer, you have a lot of time. You're doing workouts in the morning, and you take, I think we took like two and a half classes basically. Yeah. So I had a lot of free time. So I got comfortable, just driving to, or walking to the church that's right on campus there, St. Thomas Aquinas in Ames. It's obviously a super convenient location. That certainly helps. I know it's not always a privilege at every college campus, or certainly where you're living in and around a campus. But I just started forming that habit early. It was always a point to me to never miss weekend masses. I was always there at those, but I would sprinkle in those other kind of drop-ins on the way. And I'm glad I did, because it was early in that first semester really hard to balance a full football schedule, which is nothing like what a high school football schedule is. It's, probably a 6-hour requirement a day almost. And then also a new kind of full and challenging academic schedule, especially with kind of freshman year courses where some of them are really hard. Maybe they're weeding people out. And so average scores are really low and discouraging. And so I'd pray about that a lot. Like, I just got to get through this class, or I got to get through this test. And so it was good to have those there, because without it probably could have, gone differently, and maybe you don't make it through that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's great that you have this habit that you'd formed with your parents, right? So obviously under the tutelage of your parents, you have this habit, and you said, I'm going to keep this habit going in college. Okay. So that was obviously, I always tell when I'm talking to people who are about to shoot off to college, this is really a point at which you could go one of two major ways. Like, you could really keep the faith and grow in it because now you own it, or you could just lose it completely. And so obviously you said, I'm going to dial into this thing. I'm going to keep it going. So for you, it was a matter of keeping the one of the great things with the Catholic Church is we have all this structure built in. And if you just keep the structure going and hold on the path, you can just find yourself 4 years later on a good path. Would you say then throughout your college, so I think for most people, if you just hold steady and don't fall off the wagon, that's probably a win. Would you say you held steady? Did you grow during college? Give me kind of the rundown of what it looked like for you during college.
I would consider it growth, because it was more me running the show or kind of, steering the ship rather than your parents, or just things you have to do because that's a requirement at school.
Dowling's making you go to confession, so you had to
Yeah, exactly. So, and I also would probably argue, like, as I think about, the people I know who have succeeded in this and failed in this, there's not many people that are just in like this middle band where it was a true, like, kind of just steady sustaining throughout college. Like, it feels like it's almost binary. Yeah. I'm sure there's some exceptions to that where people are just, doing their mass and it's fine. And like, there was no real growth or kind of falling off from where they were before college. I think, like, if you don't choose growth and it's like, all right, I'm going to grow, I'm going to do this more. Like, I'm going to add this prayer routine to my daily routine, or I'm going to add confession and or adoration at this time into my prayer routine here. Like, if you don't have those things to go after, it feels like almost every time you kind of slip to the bottom. It's kind of like if you're not growing, like, you're falling behind. Well, it's a little bit of that element.
I would say that I think that part of it for college specifically is it's just it's heightened, because that's what I preach for regular life. Like, there's no staying still in the spiritual life. As a 38-year-old guy, I'm either getting better or I'm not. There's really, same thing like with like your health. You're either getting healthier or you're choosing not to. There's no, it's not static, especially in the spiritual life. I just think in college, it's heightened that much more because you no longer have the safety net of your parents, right? So I think that's a big piece of it. And it's kind of the coming of age. It's like really the last kind of coming of age thing we have in society today is this college experience, these 4 years or whatever it looks like. And so, the bar is high, which I think is why something like an Ut Fidem program is so important. To help people, I think, my opinion of it, is to give them a more eyes wide open view of, hey, here's what's coming. So you graduate college, and then you just, let's go. I'm back to Ut Fidem. Like, I want to do this. Because I thought you had to be pretty close, 1, 2, or 3 of people who were in it and now are on the other side of it. Cool.
I would say, we were the first male class. Me and my friends were at the first meeting of, it was just Kelly in there because he had committed to essentially being this first mentor that wanted to do it. And then, so he's sitting in there with probably a group of 30 of us high school guys. And so I think Addie's obviously excited, and then she's in a scramble. We got to find more mentors.
And they had to get me, a bunch of bad.
Yeah. No. And so, we were literally in the first meeting to kind of talk about what this may look like. Here's what the idea is, and explain it to us. So I knew it was important in helping me own it a little bit, and you like the fraternity of it. And, if you're on the girls' side, right, the sorority, just that community bond, ability to talk about more serious, real things that, high schoolers don't get the chance to do. I appreciated how beneficial that was for me. And I wanted, I always kind of knew throughout college, I think that'd be fun to get back to. I felt called to doing it. I always did I did a few Ut Fidem alumni events up at Iowa State. Cool. Those were great. And so when I moved back to Des Moines from Ames, I met with Ryland, who's now the male coordinator at Dowling. And so kind of threw my name in the ring, and then once finally a group kind of came together that he thought I'd be a good match for, and we started back in January or early February
of this year,
right before Lent.
You had a semester.
Yes, I basically had a semester with these guys.
Okay.
So,
were they seniors, or do you still have
seniors?
So they're off. So you gave them a little bit of help right before they.
Yeah, but we're still going.
That's good.
We met last night.
Awesome.
So we talked about a lot of those things about just. That's been right. If I get 6 months with them, I want them to know how hard this transition is. Like you can't say it enough. Really, it's like they think it can be easy. Oh, I go to mass, but things so quickly just get in the way.
The demands in college, right? Your schedule is overloaded with stuff. Obviously, you are a unique example because of the football component of this, but it remains like the floor is gone, the safety net's gone, and you have all this stuff, and you have a ton of distractions, right? So making sure you do this is really important. All right, so when we're looking at this, then I want you to give 2 pieces of advice, and I know you want to give advice to parents because you're a 23 or 4-year-old. How old you are? Okay, so we'll start with this.
Yeah, I'm super qualified for that. Yeah.
Let's start with this. If you could give advice to let's go. I want 2 ways with this. One would be to anyone in high school today, kids in high school, or and that'd be one piece, and the other piece would be to parents who have kids in high school or grade school. What are the things you think that both groups should be doing to, once they get to this part where they have to get to college, they can own that faith?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the parents' side first. I would say, at least kind of what I'm seeing now, it's like this delicate balance of parents trying to make sure they're giving the autonomy and the independence to their child who is going to be on their own, and wanting to give them chances to prove, they can do this correctly on their own and do that on their own. But I would say right now with the faith, continue to make them go to church, or make sure they're taking themselves to church. Don't let that get compromised because you're also trying to balance that independence element as well. And so I think I see that being kind of a tricky element there, but encourage them to lean in. Don't be afraid to kind of talk about some of those, faith things a little bit, and embrace some of that as well.
Okay. And then last piece of advice for kids in high school today, What is it? What is it? Quick piece.
Oh, yeah. For the high schoolers, I would say lean in. You got to own it. Just start with something small you can add into your routine. Start building it and don't compromise on that. That's the best way to do it. And bring your friends with you. I mean, you'll find the right friends doing that.
I love the last piece of advice. That's wonderful. Blake, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate it. Thanks for all you're doing with Ut Fidem. That's awesome. We're going to head to a short break, and we will be right back.
Thanks.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio comes from Next Generation Realty, a Catholic and family-owned flat-fee brokerage serving Central Iowa since 1994. Next Generation Realty can handle every step of the process of buying or selling a home. Learn more at nextgenerationrealty.com.
At Intervisions Healthcare, we see patients with unplanned pregnancies from ages 12 to 43. An unplanned pregnancy is traumatic at any age. For that reason, we specialize in educating, encouraging, and empowering vulnerable and at-risk mothers facing an unexpected pregnancy with the medical information and services necessary for them to make an informed decision. For more information on the free medical services at Intervisions Healthcare or to support our mission or become a volunteer, visit ivhcare.org.
Support for programming provided by Trappist Caskets, a work of the monks of New Mellery Abbey in Peosta, Iowa. Embracing an honest approach to death can more readily affirm the real meaning of life. Trappist caskets and urns are made in the prayerful environment of the monastery using Iowa-grown wood from the Abbey's sustainable forest. Each casket and urn is blessed by a monk. Quietly laboring with their hands for 175 years, the monks offer workmanship at the pinnacle of woodworker's craft. Available for immediate delivery or as a part of a pre-planning program. Learn more at TrappistCaskets.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio comes from Westgate Dental, offering cosmetic, family, implant, and general dentistry. Located at 1073rd Street, Suite 1 in West Des Moines, just behind Dowling Catholic High School. Learn more at westgatedentalia.com.
Iowa Catholic Radio would like to thank our business partner, Edible Arrangements, for their support, offering fruit bouquets and gourmet dip chocolate treats. On the go or have it delivered for that special occasion. EdibleArrangements.com.
From DeSoto to Maxwell and everywhere at iowacatholicradio.com or the Iowa Catholic Radio app. Listener-supported Iowa Catholic Radio, connecting listeners to Christ.
My help comes from you. You're right here.
Welcome back to Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. My thanks again to Blake Clark. You know, I think as I reflect there on what those things are that we can do, especially as parents, right? So I'm always looking through that lens right now. You know, my oldest is 11, and you know, what are those things that we can do to normalize the faith? And for Blake, he hit on it in a lot of ways. And I think one of the cool things with him, and we touched on it there, was how the primacy of Sunday Mass, right? So there's obviously the praying throughout the week, which is really important, and he talked about before meals, talked about kind of throughout the day. But for a family like theirs, which I imagine had to travel like crazy just between, he played high-level sports. His sister obviously played high-level sports. You're traveling like all over the place, especially on weekends. And to make sure that no matter where you are, we're finding home in Mass. Like that is still the centering point of our week, regardless of where we're at. I think that's really important. I think that's a great thing for the kids to see. I know in our family, we're not doing nearly that, not even close to that. But it is, they understand, and we try to instill in them to understand that our week revolves around Holy Mass on Sunday. That is the cornerstone of which our week is built. It's not Sunday Mass is being fit into our schedule. No. Our schedule fits into Holy Mass, meaning Mass on Sunday is the primacy. It's everything revolves around that. And I think that's really cool for what he saw growing up. This is obviously important. That's what kind of signal is that sending to a kid? That we're in different towns. We're all over God's green earth. There are lots of people who aren't doing this, but to our family, we're doing this thing. Regardless of where we are, regardless of how busy we are, regardless if we're still in our baseball uniform or not, we're doing this thing. That obviously shows the importance of it. And so it gets back to, again, modeling the faith. Modeling the faith is obviously of utmost importance because our kids are watching. Our kids are always watching. And they watch our actions more than they listen to our words, as any parent can attest to. And so, being steadfast in that, not giving up on showing them what the faith means to us and the importance of it. Thanks for joining me today on Man Up on Iowa Catholic Radio. I am Joe Stopulos. It's time to man up.
Man Up, inspiring men to live out their call to holiness.